I think one of the reasons why I'm very intrigued about this space is not just because of the business aspect of it, but from a career perspective. I mean, a lot of people want to be irreplaceable. They want to move with the trend, and not everyone has the talent when it comes to coding and programming. You see, so in the other aspect, like what you have rightly pointed out, is before a data analyst can use the data, you make sure that the data can be used by them first. So there is that check there. So it's really cool. So of course, since we are talking about career, would you give us a rough overview of what could be the career progression like?
That's definitely interesting, and I hope that in fact, I had hoped that this would have been the case when I entered the industry. Unfortunately, that wasn't, because it was a very new role back then. But no, the good news for everyone else is that if you're looking to join the data protection industry now, it is more structured. There is also more support from the management. So you can start off as a data protection executive. You can work towards becoming a data protection manager, a data protection officer, a DPO, and a DPO can be local. He or she can be regional or even global. So there are roles like a GPO, Global Privacy Officer, that's also been created. Really, there's a very clear roadmap, and like what you expect as well, for these roadmaps, there's also a personal skills development roadmap. So I think there's a lot of support, and the path is a lot clearer as well.
I think it's good. I mean, at different phase, you have different challenges. Since you chart the frontier, you kind of see the way it transforms, and perhaps you also have participate quite a fair bit in making sure that the scene take form like what we are looking at it right now, isn't it? So it's our honor to have you to share with us your journey here. Right. So moving on. Now, just like you mentioned, the progression could be from an executive to a manager, and lastly to be a DPO. So I just like to zoom into the typical day of a DPO. What a DPO needs to do?
Right, a DPO is actually, here's again some good news. I feel weird, I keep telling you a lot of good news, right?
You tell me a lot of good news, is it? This is so awesome, a lot of positivity here.
In fact, I call it good news because sometimes the DPO is being misunderstood. So a DPO does not have to do everything by him or herself. That's the big piece of good news. And this is even being, emphasized, reinforced in the official guidelines. So let's think about the role of a DPO. First and foremost, you have to run what is known a data protection management program. Just think of this as a company-wide, an organization-wide, an enterprise-wide program. Okay, so that's why it gets exciting, right? It could be from a small team to a really large global team. Okay, and the aim of this program is not to be, it's not to be free and totally protected from breaches. You can never guarantee that you will not be breached. Just like what the minister said, our posture is to assume that a breach is going to happen, or even to assume that we've already been breached. All right. So this is where it's reasonable. Now, what you have to do as part of the DPMP is to ensure that the company or the organization has accountable data protection practices. And because you're not supposed to do it alone, you should be getting a team to support you on it. So having said that, so there are a few areas you may be looking at. Okay, first and foremost, we have to ensure that everyone speaks the same language. We all understand what we are supposed to comply with. Okay, and that's where a DPO would be, will be charged with leading a team. Okay, to craft, to understand, to update, and to enforce policies, procedures to help the people, the employees, the vendors, as well, both internal and external, to be compliant or to be ready to comply with the PDPA, with the law. So that's one thing. Now, we also know that in Singapore, we are a bunch of people who like to give feedback.
Oh, that's a very positive way of putting it.
Or if I could say, our three favorite hobbies, to eat, to shop, and to complain. But right now, it's not so easy to be all out and around to eat and shop. So there are some complaints too. Okay, so I'd like to highlight that sometimes as a DPO, you will also be helping to assist with how do you deal with all these complaints. It could be because, remember I mentioned about human rights. So sometimes your customers, they may want to exercise their rights. And this is where a DPO could come in to help the individuals exercise those rights. For example, right, if let's say I want to know what data you hold of me, okay, and how you have shared it, who you have shared it with, for what purposes. Okay, of course, I must know a reason why I want to know it as well. Otherwise, it'll be harassment, right? But I have a right to want to know this. So we call it the right to access, the right to correction. Okay, so if I want to know, for example, is my address updated and accurate in your database, I can ask you about it, because you see the consequence is very clear. If the address is wrong, you may be sending the messages intended for me to another person. Okay, and that could bring about harm to me. So it's a very meaningful, it's a very rightful right, but it's a meaningful right. So this is where a DPO may also come in. Now, of course, like I mentioned, sometimes breaches may happen. Okay, so when that happens, don't worry, it's not the DPO's fault. Okay, it's not by default. Okay, that it's DPO who's in the wrong, but rather the DPO would typically also be involved in this team with what we call a breach management team. Okay, to protect the organization, to protect its employees, to protect its management, the managers, and to protect the customers, to protect those that we serve. Okay, so those are some of the activities, and you could probably tell from here that, hey, that doesn't sound like a day-to-day operations, right? And that's the beauty of it. When you're running a program, okay, you're not just looking at doing one task over and over again. You may have some regular tasks, for example, okay, conducting audits, okay, for example, conducting training. So all these are very interesting aspects, but I would say that they are not representative of all DPOs. That is to say, it doesn't mean that all DPOs are expected to conduct all these activities, but that you are able, okay, to lead or to support a team to fulfill this, so that you can run an ongoing program, okay, the DPMP, to once again protect your customers, protect your organization, protect your staff, your colleagues, so that you can build trust. I know it's a bit lengthy, but I hope this was useful.
Yes. So the very important word that I caught was build trust. So everything that a DPO does is really to build trust, and it feels really interesting role, because I keep hearing things like a combination of an auditor, come a lawyer, come a PR, come a customer service, and then you need to manage, and I believe, like what you say, interact with various teams and be very familiar with the various laws, I believe, be it regional, local, or international law. So sounds exciting for someone who doesn't like desk-bound work. I think this is pretty exciting for me.
If I could, interject, right? So you see, the beauty of it is that you're not supposed to replace a lawyer, you see. You're not supposed to replace a HR, for example. So it's really about finding that teamwork. And so I also like to urge everyone, if you're not a lawyer, seek legal advice accordingly. Just like you could find it internally with an in-house counsel, you could find it externally as well. So one of the first and foremost, the most important things about being a DPO, for example, is to know where you can find help. And I also like to stress, remember I mentioned about executives or managers. So if you're supporting the DPO as part of the DP team, don't worry, it doesn't mean that you have to do all these things. It doesn't mean you have to have all the skills, okay? But what it means is look for those areas that you can contribute towards. I remember your question just now earlier, which was, what do I need to study? What kind of experience do I need? I hope that by sharing some of these activities, all the listeners, our audience, will find some idea of, oh, I've done this before. I think this is how I can contribute. So this will link to the learning curve. Can it be steep? It will be steep when you come in with a closed mindset. But when you find, or say, qualified trainers and consultants who can help you along the way, the learning curve is very smooth.
I agree. I think finding the right trainer to learn from is very important, which I think I will touch on a little bit on that slightly later on. But since we are still on it, right, I'm going to ask you a very Singaporean question, or a very practical question. It's not a Singaporean question, but it's a very practical question, is what is the trends that we are looking at when we talk about remuneration?
Okay, sure. No worries. It's
maybe
a very
you can give us
topic.
ballpark figure, like a ballpark figure. Not, I mean, I guess it differs from company to company and industry to industry as well. Yeah, just a ballpark figure to get us excited, maybe.
Okay, sure. Again, good news. Okay, so from what I've observed, okay, because I speak regularly to different folks, those who are looking to hire, those who are looking for a job. So what I've been observing over the past 2 years is that the average salary for DPOs seem to have been on the rise. Okay, so I would also like to reference the IAPP's salary survey. They do this annually, and well, their surveys have shown that first, it is not just that the salaries have been rising, okay, but those with a professional, a recognized international certification have been receiving, say, more wage increases as well. So the average increase from the IPP survey was that yes, the average wage has gone up by about 6,000 American dollars over 2 years, and those who have at least one certification, so one IPP certification, typically earns about 5,000 more than someone who doesn't, and those with multiple certifications can earn almost $15,000 more annually. So one example is, I can't review my salary, but I can share with you that when we talk about those with multiple certifications, I'm one of them. And you can look out for these professionals when you see the term, the certification FIP. So that's the good news. And okay, let's look at the local context. You know, I saw the stare in your eyes, and I know you want me to say more, so okay. Man,
FIP stands for Fellow of International Privacy, right?
No, Information Privacy. Information
privacy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
I know all these acronyms.
Tell us more about the skills and certification, because like what you say, if one certificate can like bring me another $5,000 annually extra, and multiple gives me another 15,000 more, I will be very keen to know what kind of certification I should get myself into, you know, if I am in that scene. Please.
Right, okay. So just quickly go through some of the IPP certifications. There's one, or they typically start with a CIP, and that stands for a Certified Information Privacy. Differentiation comes in when you're looking at whether it's more operational, whether it's more legal. So there is the CIPM, the Certified Information Privacy Manager. That's the Certified Information Privacy Professional. This is more legal, and it's broken down into different regions like Asia, like Europe, even US, for example. Okay, and that's the Certified Information Privacy Technologist, as well as the Fellow of Information Privacy. So you will need at least two of these certifications. Typically, it's a CIPM plus either the CIPT or the CIPP. Okay, and then besides this, you will need a referee. For the record, you need 3 referees who are already FIPs to recommend you to be a FIP as well. So you see, this community is building up. We don't have that many international experts in the world yet. Okay, this community is growing, and this is also one of the reasons why, you know, the principle of scarcity. When you don't have so many experts, that is why they are more highly valued. And perhaps, you know, coming to that, you know, in Singapore, what I've observed is that for DPOs, I used to hear more offers around, you know, in the range of 6,000 to 8,000. Now I'm seeing it rise up to 8,000, from 8,000 to 10,000. And over the past, I'll say 6 to 12 months, I'm seeing more of those in the range between $10,000 to $20,000. So this is also because, like you mentioned, okay, as we are getting more connected, as technology is being adopted, the risk is getting larger. So when the risk is larger, the value a DPO can bring to the table also increases. Now, when that happens, of course, you should be fairly remunerated as well. And that depends on the company. Okay, that depends on the maturity of the company as well, and the business operations. So, was that useful?
Sounds fair. Oh, very useful. Sounds really fair. I think moving ahead, especially bigger and bigger companies whereby they are acquiring so much data on a daily basis, I can imagine how important the role of a DPO will play in the particular company. So I'm not totally unexpected that the pay rise is of such, but it's still very exciting because I haven't come across a lot of roles that have such upsides, you see.
Well, you know, if I could add one more point to that, besides you know, the quantum salaries, what I've also observed is that there are more data protection roles. Okay, they are being put out by companies. And what I want to personally share is that I've had some students, some mentees, some friends even, they lost their jobs during the COVID period. It was very trying, and they discovered a new career in data protection. So this is a career, it's an industry that's in demand, and I hope that encourages everyone out there who may be feeling the challenge. So really, 加油, all the best.